what we're going to do with this demonstration is attempt to explain why warmer water is less dense than colder water. Density is the amount of material in a space, and when we heat the water or chill the water, what we're going to be looking to see is that the volume of the material will change without changing the mass, which is a little strange. So this is called thermal expansion. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this test tube setup, and what you have here is you have a test tube with green water in it, and you have a pipette at the top with a little bit of water sticking up into the tube. So we're going to weigh this thing first. We're going to keep track of the mass. We're going to weigh the whole apparatus here, and on the scale, and let's see, we're looking at about getting it balanced here. And we're looking at about 141.2 grams for this whole apparatus, and this will help us keep track of the mass. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this water in the test tube, and I'm going to place it in hot water right now into this mug. So let me get some hot water here. In the hot water, and we're going to take some observations and see what happens. Watch what happens to the liquid inside this tube. Notice that the water inside the pipette is climbing, which means the volume of the liquid is expanding. The volume is getting greater, but let's see if the mass changed. So, got it here. I'm going to dry it off. I'm drying it off right now. I'm off screen. And I'm going to place it in the flask, and let's see if the balance has changed at all. And it hasn't. So the mass has stayed the same, yet the volume of the water has gotten a lot greater. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take it and we're going to put it in ice water. Watch what happens. Got it in ice water now. Let's keep an eye on the liquid. Notice that the liquid is slowly moving back into the test tube. It's going back down the pipette. This is sort of how a thermometer works. Actually, it's exactly how a thermometer works. So the liquid inside the test tube is actually contracting. The volume is getting less, but has the mass changed? Well, it shouldn't have changed because you didn't add any liquid to the test tube, or we didn't remove any. And yet the volume here is changing. Just keep an eye on it for a little bit longer. And I'll just move it around in here to cool it down a little quicker. It appears that there's less liquid in here now, but that's not the case. It's actually the same amount of liquid. There's the same amount of water in here. The mass hasn't changed. I'm going to dry it off. I'm going to put it back in the on the scale and see if the mass has changed. It shouldn't have. And we're seeing that once again, the mass has not changed. It's still staying at 141.2 grams. So the mass hasn't changed, but the volume has. So what we've been able to do with temperature is expand the volume or contract the volume without changing the mass. And what this does ultimately is it changes the density. And then what you're going to do is you're going to answer the questions in the packet and eventually come up with an explanation for why this happens. And it has to do with what goes on with the molecules.